The last part of this video series, part 6, spoke of the existence of devils and evil spirits as if they are real. Some people don't believe such evil spirit beings even exist. They cannot conceive of a form of life other than what their senses can perceive. Perhaps they think in a modern mindset and have been taught in their classes in science that belief in evil spirits is an ancient, obsolete, ignorant form of belief that all intelligent, educated people reject. If you are one of these people, you may even feel a sort of pride in your superior knowledge of what you think is true. But be careful and open-minded. This part 7 of the Why You Are Alive on Earth video series contains additional thoughts to help you overcome the narrow thinking that the only life on Earth is physical life, such as plants and animals. Now, a word of warning on this video. It contains some descriptions of awful crimes that some viewers might want to skip. I will warn you when we get close to these, and you can fast forward through them. To begin with, remember there was a time when people did not believe there were living creatures in drops of pond water. Yes, this left them with a mistaken belief or illusion that the water was clean and safe to drink. This is another example of how an illusion can harm you if you don't know the truth. They drank the pond water, trusting their incorrect belief that it was good to drink because it looked clear. I can see the water is clean and clear, so I know for sure it's okay to drink it, they would say. Many became ill or died because of their beliefs not being based on truth. I read a true account of one couple moving to a rural area in the Far East. Their journey was slow and difficult, and especially the last day, and they arrived at their destination after dark, exhausted, and with their infant son crying to be fed. They inquired of some of the local men, "Is there any water nearby?" When they said yes, the wife gave them a baby bottle to be filled. When they returned to the poorly lit shelter, they gave the mother the bottle full of water, and she mixed the baby's powdered formula into it. She fed the crying infant, and they all went to bed, exhausted. The next morning, the child was in distress with a bloated abdomen and died 2 days later. The grief-stricken parents asked the men who had filled the bottle to show them the water source, expecting it to be a well. Well, it turned out to be a stagnant pool of water nearby. The men who filled the bottle did not know about the living creatures in the water. The tiny, invisible tropical organisms in that pond multiplied in the baby's intestines and killed their child. Now, mankind outgrew the false belief that water's clarity was a sign of its cleanliness when more powerful ways of seeing were invented, and the microbes became visible and believable. Just because you can't see something does not mean it does not exist. Consider this story from the childhood of the producer of this video. Across the street from his family home in the 1950s lived a young man who suffered from stomach ulcers. For a year, these ulcers put him in and out of the hospital, and many doctors were consulted. Samples of the fluid in his stomach were sent to labs to determine if bacteria were causing the man's problems. The labs reported everything looked normal. There were no disease organisms found in his stomach fluids. Doctors were sure that the damage had to be due to the stomach acid that was eating the poor man's own stomach walls. So they treated him for excess stomach acid. The remedies included antacids, drinking lots of milk, and in worse cases, surgery to repair the holes being eaten into his stomach by the stomach acid. Fast forward many years, and it was discovered that there actually were invisible living organisms causing the erosion of a man's stomach. It was the bacterium Helicobacter pylori. It was there all the time. The problem was that science was blinded to it because the proper staining techniques had not been invented to allow this nasty bug to be seen under the microscope. Once staining technology improved, they could finally see it. Scientists discovered that this bug did not eat the walls of the stomach, but instead it interfered with the production of the mucus the body produces in the stomach to produce the stomach lining from its own acid. Once the truth was seen and believed, antibiotics were found that killed Helicobacter pylori, and the result was no more pain, no more drinking gallons of milk and eating antacid tablets, and no more surgery, just complete healing. The point here is that just because you can't see something does not mean it does not exist. This suggests those who follow only what secular science says might want to consider the possibility that you've not yet found the correct understanding, the staining techniques that will allow you to believe and then see that spirits, demons, and devils really do exist. Perhaps these examples will help. Have you ever seen the wind? Do you believe that wind exists? Well, why? The truth is, you've never seen wind because wind is moving air and air is transparent. You believe in wind because you have seen what it does. The bending of trees, the motion of wheat in a field, moving dust, ripples on a lake, or tumbling tumbleweeds. You may have felt its touch on your skin or had your hat blown off. You haven't seen wind, yet you believe it exists because you've seen its effects. Have you ever seen electricity? Do you believe that electricity exists? Well, why? The truth is you've never seen electricity because it consists of the motion of electrons which are too small to see. Note that sparks are not electricity. Sparks are glowing gas heated by moving electrons. You believe in electricity because you've seen electric motors move, lights glowing, stove burners becoming red hot, and sparks such as lightning. You may even have felt it flow through you when you touched an electric wire or walked across a carpet and then touched a doorknob or your sister or brother's ear, maybe. You haven't seen electricity, yet you believe it exists. These two examples, the wind and the electricity, demonstrate that the way to see invisible things is to look for the effects they create. If they are physical, invisible things, we see, feel, smell, hear, or taste their effects. Radio signals fall into this category. You can't see them, but you can detect them with equipment which produces a physical manifestation of their presence, such as music from a radio. Evil spirits or devils are not physical, yet we can still see their effects if we look without our minds being blinded by the strong illusion that they do not exist. You need to know where to look and what to look for. These beings act on the thoughts, affections, emotions, desires, and imaginations of people. So it is in the behavior of people where you are most likely to see evidence of evil spirits. People affected by evil spirits produce physical manifestations when the spirits influence them. Remember the man walking in the graveyard, crying and cutting himself while dragging his broken chains in the country of the Gadarenes? Today he would be called insane. But was he insane? Really? And how do you know that? As soon as the evil spirits were removed by Jesus, he no longer appeared insane. Amazing. In part 5 of this video series, you saw examples of how these evil spirits express their invisible presence and how they can be removed. Now, at this point, stop here and fast forward about 60 seconds if you don't want to hear of terrible, unexplained crimes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In modern times, ask yourself what is going on when, out of the blue, a loving husband murders his wife, his 4-year-old son, and 2-year-old daughter. Out of the blue, a married man with children spends years of his life catching women unaware, brutally slaying them, cutting them up and burying the body parts. A man named Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, killed boys and ate parts of them and stored body parts in his refrigerator. Just crazy, you say? He was determined to be legally sane at his trial. And consider the woman who put her little kids in the back of her car and then drove into the ocean to drown them. Or the mother who found her naked boyfriend attacking her 10-year-old daughter and had to strike him with a knife to get him off of her. Or a woman who withdraws under a crushing depression that comes on her suddenly and lives the rest of her life in a mental institution, staring at the wall and nodding back and forth over and over and over again. Now start here if you were skipping the difficult stories of evil crimes. Just calling such people crazy or demented is just modern science's way of saying, there's nothing in the stomach fluid. I looked. I didn't see anything. Or, that crystal clear water looks drinkable to me. Here, have a nice refreshing drink. Is it possible that people trapped in the illusion that evil spirits do not exist just can't see what is really happening? Are they seeing the effects of invisible beings, and because of their lack of belief and their deceptive prejudices, invent other explanations? So far, science has been unable to reliably cure the Jeffrey Dahmers, child molesters, serial killers, and serial criminals with anything biological or behavioral science can provide. Perhaps, if they investigated the possibility of evil spirits, new options for real and permanent cures could be found. One last thought on this subject. We know the man Jesus actually lived because there are historical writings about him, many of which quote his actual words. He claimed out loud to be the incarnate Son of God, the God of the universe, come to earth in human flesh. Think about that claim, made by a man. You must realize that he is not God, then he was insane, deluded, or he was a liar. The odd thing is that he demonstrated that he could stop a storm on a lake by talking to it. He could restore a man's arm that had been withered since birth. He healed a paralytic man. He gave sight to a blind man. He healed a woman with years of uncontrolled bleeding instantly. And, he brought people that were dead back to life. He demonstrated that he could forgive sins, which only God can do. More about this later. He also came back to life after the Romans killed him. And they used crucifixion and they buried him. He was seen alive by more than 500 people after his death and demonstrated the ability to pass through solid walls. And to put the cherry on top of the sundae, he is seen today still by people all over the world. Just search YouTube for "visited by Jesus." So the odds are pretty good that he's exactly who he said he is. Now, why is that important? Remember that he spoke of devils, evil spirits, and demons as if they were real, and drove them out of people, instantly curing them of their ailments sometimes. It should be obvious from this that spirits are real, even if you do not see them, because God demonstrated they exist. You yourself are a spirit living in a human body. How then can you deny that other spirits exist? That's irrational. It's a good thing scientists were able to finally see and believe in Helicobacter pylori, or we would still have incurable peptic stomach ulcers today. How much longer will the human race have to suffer the attacks of evil spirits before we lose our blindness, believe God's word, and begin to effectively fight back? Think about that. And to raise the hairs on the back of your neck, consider this idea. When you drink contaminated water, the biological life in the water has no intellect. It cannot influence your mind to encourage you to harm yourself by drinking the bad water. But evil spirits? Think carefully on this. It is precisely the mind, imagination, intellect, and reason that their actions are evidenced in. Is there a possibility they could subtly influence a human being to murder people and to give that murderer a demonic sense of gratification to encourage them to do it again and again? When you find yourself thinking, go ahead and do it, no one will ever know, where did that thought come from? Was that your own thought? Or could there be some evil influence nearby you influencing your mind? Scripture warns us to take every thought captive and examine it against the truth taught in the basic instructions for leaving Earth. I wonder why. Now, at this point in the Why You're Alive on Earth video series, your host believes it would be wise to make a point about suicide. Sometimes people have very difficult lives full of hurt and pain, death, broken relationships, and sorrow. This may seem overwhelming to them, and a troubled human spirit may be tempted, after learning about the continued life, to use suicide to try to escape earth life. Don't do it. God has a plan for each of our lives, and escaping into what you think will be a new, wonderful life may cause harm to you or others you do not anticipate. There is also a chance your spirit is not ready to survive in that new world. More about this later. Suicide is not a good option. Why? Because it does not fix any of the things wrong with you or your life situation. You will take everything about what you are now to that new place. You're probably not ready for heaven. However, troubles you now have can be fixed here on earth. A better way would be to stay and work with counselors and other people to correct the bent parts of your personality before you leave earth. And never forget the 6th of the 10 commandments the Lord gave us. He said we're not to commit murder. Suicide is the murder of self. Let me say it again. A better option is to tough it out here on earth. Talk to others about your difficulties. Get help from a trusted counselor, pastor, teacher, or other adult. Learn to grow, heal, love, and forgive. And help others with what you learn. Focusing on helping others and less on yourself. Let your Creator decide when it's your time to come to Him. Don't take that choice away from Him. You'll get a chance later in part 15 to watch the testimonies of a group of people who tried suicide. Several of them tell their story and what happened. You will learn what they learned, and you will want to stay alive. Now finish watching this video series, and you will find hope and joy. A wonderful future awaits you. Life was a free gift to you. Don't destroy it. Cherish it, even when times are tough. Our bodies, like this tree, undergo wear and tear, twisting and damage, and even the loss of parts as we age. Yet we are more than our bodies. The spirit that dwells within us is cultured by the Creator for His purposes, and ultimately we will be perfected to please Him. Trust Him, learn to know Him, and you will love Him as billions of other people do. Now in part 8 of this Why You're Alive on Earth video series, we will discuss the man Jesus of Nazareth, because His interaction with people on earth revealed a lot of information about the continued life. The title of Part 8 is, Who is this Jesus? I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.